welcome to the Illumino Podcast. The first of its kind. The first of many. Let's start off with a introduction with our guests here today. We've got, actually I'll let them introduce themselves. So we've got Loic. Like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Loic Cognier. I'm head of event management for a company organizing B2B event for the professional of the MICE and the leisure travel sector.
Thank you.
That's great. Loic's made it quite easy for me because we work for a very similar company. So, so I'm Greg Taylor, head of marketing, a company that runs B2B events as well.
My name is Naz Kabir. I'm a global event producer. I work for a variety of clients worldwide, mainly on things like museum touring exhibitions, visitor attractions, tourism destinations, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Let's start with you, Naz.
Oh, thanks.
We get a coffee while he's...
It's coffee time now.
Spotlight. Let's tell us a bit more about your role. What is it you do? What led you onto this journey?
Okay, so I joined this industry back in 2008, so many moons ago. Before that, I always worked in senior marketing roles for the education sector. And working in the sort of public sector, I realised it's a very low ceiling in terms of creativity, in terms of budgets, in terms of achieving what I wanted to achieve in my career. So I thought I need to move to the public sector where everything seems to be a bit more exciting, a bit more happening. So I applied for roles all over the country. I thought I need to be flexible because obviously I'm coming from the public sector to the private sector, and it's not always that easy to make that switch. So I applied for lots of roles, and then I went for an interview with a company called Body Worlds, based up in, they're not based there, they're based in Germany. But the person interviewing me, and he won't mind me mentioning this, his name's Peter Clenshaw. He actually launched my career. Without him, I wouldn't be where I am today, because he gave me an opportunity where others wouldn't, and he saw something in me, and he said, look, I chose you because you had a passion for what you do, although you were not quite the right fit and there was other people on paper who were better for this role than you. I just felt a real rapport with you, and I felt that we could work really well together, and the rest was history. We did amazing things at the O2 Arena with the Body Worlds exhibition when it came to the O2 bubble in London. Yeah, that's how I sort of came into the industry.
Bodyworks. That was on the news at one point for some people. Yeah, it was very, very controversial, wasn't it? Bodyworks. How did you?
Body Worlds.
Body Worlds.
Yeah,
sorry.
Body Worlds, yeah.
Is that the event where they brought in bodies and they kind of displayed them when they're cut up?
That's it. So it's basically de-skinning the human body,
Yeah,
and showing the inner workings of the human body. So we had exhibits on all different shapes and sizes and poses, shall we say. So we had the basketball player jumping, and you could see how the muscles move with it, inside and all of that kind of thing. So we used sporting environments, we used leisure environments, and the whole point was to educate the public about how the human body works, and it was really successful. I mean, it became the second most successful touring attraction in London. I'm guessing you're going to ask who was the first,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
Tutankhamun. So we couldn't compete with the Egyptians, I'm afraid.
No. Another body, but
yeah. Right. It's another body, a very different type of body. Yeah.
One.
A lot older as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But London's not the only place you've worked.
No, I've worked all over the world. Once I worked in China. That was a 1 month long science festival.
Yeah.
And that was my first time working in Beijing. And then apart from that, I've worked predominantly, a lot of my career has actually been in the Middle East. So Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, UAE. So that whole GCC region is where I spent a lot of my time. And then, of course, the UK, Europe, and then USA. I've done a lot of work in the USA as well.
Amazing. Thank you. I think that gives us a good introduction to yourself.
Thank you.
Greg?
I guess for me, it's like a 3-part sort of story. I went to university and did journalism. That was my aspiration, to be a sports writer, match of the day host one day. That was the aspiration. But that was around 2011 when I graduated. And at that point, newspapers were sort of like dying a little bit. They weren't sort of growing, and jobs were were running out. So I sort of graduated and then went into copywriting, so advertising. And that was great. I did 2 years at Groupon when I came out in like a sort of graduate scheme, and then agency work for about 4 years in and around London, a place called Fuel Integrated, and then Deloitte Digital, and a mixture. And that was great because I worked on a lot of brands, Nike, Dell. It's like name dropping, but just like John Lewis.
Casually drop some names, why not? Yeah.
But I was junior, so I was young then, and obviously had really good seniors guiding.
Yeah.
But yeah, my main role was copywriting. So that was like, took my writing skills from journalism, moved into copywriting, and then I was working freelance for that sort of about 18 months, and missed being part of a team, and I started applying for a few jobs, and then this one, basically, that I'm in now, that I've been in for 7 years, came up. And so then going from copywriter, I then moved into sort of a more marketing manager role. It sort of encompassed everything I think I'm probably fairly good at. I mean, Loic knows me very well. So it kind of, I think copywriting, you're looking at a screen all day, and me in just words is okay, but I like to be with people. Clients, partners, and like a creative team, designers, videographers, event producers, event management, everything. So moving into that, the last 7 years, I've been, going up the ladder, good progress, now head of marketing, and run a team. And we, as Loic and I said, we basically put on B2B events in the, I'm going to say MICE. People always get confused when we say MICE, but it's, check me if I'm right on this, meetings, incentives, conventions and exhibitions.
Yes.
Near enough, pretty much. Or
Glad you know
conferences, maybe conferences. The C, I'm always like, it's one of the two. But
Me, it's the E.
is it the E? Did I get it wrong? Yeah. I'll let you can change it. But no, and I think that's been amazing because those events are all around the world. So kind of like, as I was saying, like you get to meet other sort of, I guess, other cultures, work in America, work in the Middle East, work a lot around Europe. And I love that because you're exposed to so many different partners and just different creative ideas, different ways of thinking. And that's why I think, although it's been 7 years, it's been a really quick 7 years. And still lots to learn, but I love it. I really enjoy creative storytelling. And I think that's kind of the consistent thing of those three: journalism, copywriting, head of marketing. You're telling stories. And that's why, I enjoy the job, I suppose.
Interesting. I want to dive a bit more into the marketing side and learn more. Well, so before we do that, so Loic, tell us about your journey.
So the journey started in France. I'm French, and I actually
you can apologise later.
And actually, there was nothing that would really predestine me to be in the events industry. I have a legal background. I studied law at university. I have a law degree, and then I carried on onto a master of international trade and commercial law. And it took me a long time to realize that this is not really what I wanted to do. But I really enjoyed studying law. But I really wanted to be in an industry where you are surrounded by people, where no day is ever the same, where in the very corporate life of a law firm, I was not going to find that, let's be honest. So I started I started my journey in the event industry actually with Comic Cons. I was a volunteer for many years, and I worked with many promoters in France. And I was looking after a team of volunteers on site to manage the photo shoots, manage the autograph sessions. I met many agents, and that also got me into talent management, which I'm still doing as a freelancer today. But those positions were, really volunteers. So it was no full-time job. I really wanted to find a full-time job. So I started applying for some internship because having a law degree with very minimal experience in events, it was going to be a hard to find a full-time job straight away. Yeah. So I applied for many internship, landed an internship with the company I'm still currently on, and moved up the corporate ladder. But I've I've had many roles in this company. I was an intern, I became an assistant, then a coordinator, then an event manager, senior event manager, and then on to head of event management eventually. So yeah.
In very
my
like
journey.
short space of time. I mean, we were joking earlier. We do work in the same company. I remember like walking in the first day, this fresh-faced sort of blonde
Bombshell.
boy. yeah, much better. Blonde bombshell. Yeah. Yes, as he strolled in, I remember just tapped me in the shoulder. I was
Greg's getting a bit red in the face here.
But it's cool because we've both sort of grown really, obviously very different jobs, but grown together. Been great.
Interesting place to work at.
Yeah, it's an understatement. Yeah, I think it's varied. Yeah,
Incredible. Now, so you're all involved in events, and you have been for many years. How has the event space kind of grown or changed over the years since you've been there? Feel free to jump in.
For me, I mean, my industry is slightly different to these guys. When I look at the industry at the moment, when I first came in at 2008 to where it is today, it is about technology. People using various forms of technology in so many different sort of innovative ways. From totally digital immersive environments, which we didn't have back in 2008. So that's a really good example of how and what direction it's taking. And you can change your content so easily because you can have one environment, because it's digital, you can change the environment from one week to the next. So if you wanted to have repeat visitors, for example, you could change the scenery, you could change the content within a matter of days. That's something we couldn't do back in 2008. Once you had a show, and that was it. People would come and see that one show and probably not come back again. Yeah. So that, the industry's evolved a lot with digital technology, and it's enabled us to have repeat visitors in a way that we couldn't have previously. And I think that's one of the key things, changes that I've seen.
I mean, I think for us, I mean, I'm talking on behalf of Loic here, but I think in the industry, I mean, and you obviously add to this because the big thing, obviously, we had our events are face to face. They meet and we go around the world. So you can imagine when 4 or 5 years ago, when COVID happened, our business and the whole industry was just down tools, and we weren't really sure if it was going to get ever back to how it was, or if there was going to be an appetite for our kind of events. But I think the secret recipe, the ingredient that our events, I guess, conjure up is the people want to meet face to face. That hasn't disappeared. That's the constant. That is why events exist, right?
Absolutely.
And I suppose we tried virtual events, and I mean that was tricky. I think it didn't have the same feeling. Naturally, you're sitting at a laptop rather than exploring a destination like Marrakesh or Barcelona, or wherever you are. So I think it's weird. It did change for a period because we had to, but I think it actually made you realise what was so key about our events and certainly the B2B meetings industry. But obviously, even in your world, there's so many events that just nothing happened, did it? For
died
18 months?
During COVID, it just died. Overnight, it just died.
Right.
I was based in Dubai at the time, working at the Dubai World Trade Center. And when COVID hit and the industry died, all the expats lost their jobs. So we all had to return back to our home countries. And like you said, a lot of people then pivoted to online events. Yeah. But you're right, it just didn't carry the same value, the same weight. People just weren't. And because for almost 2 years, people were doing everything online. Yeah. It was like burnout online. And people were like, I need to go. They were screaming out for face-to-face interaction again. Exactly. So when COVID finished, there was this massive surge back towards face-to-face meetings and events. And I think it hasn't looked back since. I mean, this year, I found this year's been quite a quiet year. I'm not sure why. Last year was a really busy year for me. This year was a bit quieter, but I think next year is going to be another busy year again.
Yeah, I mean, it was busy this year, no, for you?
Yes, I feel like it's busy every year.
Yeah.
In different way, but especially, yes, after COVID, there was a rush and an appetite for our type of events. So we had like a growth, post-COVID growth, or at least recovery, which was very important for us. I would say one of the main change I'm noticing compared to like, let's say 10 years ago, which was, the new generation are approaching our event in a very different way. 10 years ago, when you were organizing, let's say, a networking event or an evening, you know, people were like, let's do a party, let's connect, let's have fun all together. Not saying that the new generation don't want to have fun, but it's a different type of fun, you know. They tend to have a sober approach, you know, minimal alcohol, a bit like slower pace on these events. They appreciate having more time for themselves, where before people were almost, you know, priding themselves on being always busy, you know, fast paced. Our events are the best because it's packed with loads of activities and you're going to be able to do all of these things, where now there's an appetite for something a bit more slow.
That's interesting. We were on a call the other day with a major hotel brand, and our events are 3-day events, but we're trying to add some additional events in between, or bookend it. And I think we're noticing that people don't want that big boozy sort of 2 a.m. sort of finish. They, like you said, sober's key now. I mean, events, networking events anyway in particular, and obviously like, you know, social events and I guess just, consumer facing events. Alcohol is dropping, I think, in younger generations. Not that changes. I mean, budgets are smaller, I suppose.
No, well, not really.
No.
Actually, we're interestingly enough, you know, we're pushing more and more some sober option on our drinks menus, like non-alcoholic beer. And now, especially in the UK, we're seeing a lot of 0% spirits, some gins, vodka, all of these. Which are, you know, really making a big entry on the market. And I mean, sadly, the cost of these spirits is exactly the same as the one with the alcohol. So I'm not quite sure we'll save money in the long run. But I think it's definitely, you know, making a bit more sustainable from a wellness perspective, mental health. And, you know, that new generation is very conscious of all these things. And they really put this at the forefront of how they engage with our industry.
I think you're right, actually, because when I've been recently to B2B shows like the IAPA events that tour around the world, they're focused more now on giving the groups experiences rather than boozy nights, like you said. So they'll set up a trip to a theme park, for example, or another digital visitor attraction or something, because that's the industry we're in. So they're thinking, okay, let's take everyone, all the VIPs, all the speakers, all the anyone who's attending, to give them an experience rather than just a boozy night out. And I think it does work. I mean, because that's the industry we're in, and to experience something new in the location that you're going to, you might not be going there again at any time soon. So it's a great way to showcase local events and local attractions. I
think, and also, you know, the culture's changing. I mean, being transparent, our industry traditionally is very white. Okay, so you know, alcohol's something that they would go after. But if you have, you know, people of different faiths that don't drink, and that's growing, thankfully, and also, like we said, a more health conscious sort of generation. That's meaning that we can't just be like, well, not that we do this anyway, but I think B2B events would be like chuck 20k behind the bar, good luck, you know, and that obviously isolated or ostracized a lot of people.
It did, yeah.
And I think now it's moving to much more inclusive.
That's true. But you know what's quite interesting and also challenging at the same time is to find a compromise between the previous generation, which have built an expectation of, well, you know, usually you do this with, you know, this new generation, which is like, but you're not really tailoring these events for me. I don't feel like those are for me. And we need to, we're all part of the same industry. So we need to find a way to create this platform where everybody find what they're looking for and what is for them.
Really true. Yep.
So, okay, thank you. Loic, operations.
Yes.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot.
What's the key to putting on a successful event?
That's a very tough question.
Great marketing helps.
You get people in the door, then I have to take care of them.
Because it's a mixture of creativity and precision.
Yes.
How do you balance the two?
Well, I would say I tend to have some guiding principles that I'm following and which I think are very key to achieve a successful event. If you allow me, I'll give you 3.
Please do.
So the first one is managing expectation. I know it's a big word and sometimes it means nothing, but let me explain. Managing expectation of your own clients, managing the expectation of your team, but also to, managing the expectation of the audience that will be attending your event. I think that's extremely important, and marketing play a big role in that, in managing those expectations. The second guiding principle that I have is also communications. I think communicating with all your vendors, your team, your stakeholders, your clients, all of that is extremely important. And that is linked to the managing the expectation. And finally, my third guiding principle, which I cannot remember.
Is that guiding, is it?
guiding is always, think about don't ever lose the perspective, the bigger picture. Because it's so easy to work on these events and get stuck onto, some details that are so, minutia that it's you're no longer working on the impact at the bigger scale. And sometimes, even my team, they're like, oh, but yeah, no, this is very important. We need to do this, and it's not going my way. I'm like, okay, but if you're like putting yourself out, take a bit of, distance and appreciate the perspective. Like, is this going to have such a major impact as you think? Probably not. And the clients don't know that it's supposed to go that way anyway.
And that's a big part of your role, isn't it? Is helping your sort of 7-8 event managers to not get drawn into the minutiae. And
I mean, they do need to work on the details.
Yes,
it's a very detailed job. The devil is in the details. So you need to focus on these. But sometimes you need to take distance and appreciate the bigger picture. And I think that is linking on to another topic that I wanted to go over, which I think is the second question. But we'll cut that. I'll let you do the follow up.
No, don't continue, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's important also to remember that you rarely put an event just for the sake of putting on an event.
Right.
There is a goal, there is a purpose. And, whether it is, let's say, a celebration, a product launch, promotion of a service or product, it can also be, a conference. But that is really what should be the driving factor of what your event is going to be about, the shape that it's going to take and what you want to achieve with it. But putting an event just for the sake of putting an event, it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, you're right. I mean, why would we bother putting on an event at that cost if it didn't serve a purpose and a set of objectives? So it's understanding those objectives right at the very beginning and working backwards almost.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, obviously, we are in the events industry, but as a marketer, events are a key tactic you can use to grow. So again, like you're saying, that's even if you're not an events business, events are a huge way of drawing in new clients and put brand awareness and everything. So it's every level of events has to have a goal. Otherwise, it's just a lot of money for
absolutely. And marketing is where events almost grow and start from, isn't it? I mean, that's where the noise is made. That's how the message is delivered.
Yeah, as in marketing events.
An event, yeah.
Well,
an event is an idea, right? You're going to put on an event, but then it's about how do we deliver that message and get people riled up and behind that event.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I would say it's about the storytelling.
Yeah.
That, how are you going to, bearing in mind the objective of your event, how are you going to deliver this? Through the theming, for us, it's going to be through theming, entertainment. What's the flow of the evening? Is there a presentation? Do you have any speakers? Like, it needs to make sense because otherwise your audience is going to be very, very confused to what's happening.
Yeah, and marketing for an event is different to marketing, Nike trainers, or so I keep saying Nike.
Dropping another name, are we?
Promotions welcome, and okay. No,
Do you have a list to drop by the end of the podcast?
Wait for Puma next.
Yeah, Apple, and nothing else. Love apples. No, but I think that marketing events is different in that again, opposed to something like e-commerce. They're time sensitive. They happen like they might happen repeat, but they do have a window. And from a marketing point of view, you actually meet your customers, like really do meet them. Like, you might go online on Instagram today and think, buy something, you'll never meet those people and they'll never meet you. Events as a marketer give you literally the exposure to your audience. And it's an amazing learning. You can obviously, that is market research in many ways, but that for me is why it's different, marketing and events, to just marketing a standard product, and it's not just, as like referenced earlier, and obviously you was on as there's so many moving parts and there's so many partners and there's so many different departments that come together to build an event. You really need to, when you're telling that story, get everyone behind it. It's obviously any product made, whether it's a trainer, whether it's a watch, whether it's an event, it has to come together from leadership and all there has to be business reasons. But an event is this living organism the whole time. So you really have to be quite dynamic as a marketing team. And when you do, bring it to market, you have to be aware that, things can change. Even the product is evolving, even on site. So it's very different, I think, than something like I say, like a standard sort of e-commerce product.
So marketing. So what kind of tools do you use to help you deliver the message or promote an event in marketing?
I mean, it's 360 campaigns we run. So there's obviously numerous tactics and channels we go through. PR, we have email marketing, obviously, to our database. But I think for new audiences, apart from sort of, I guess, LinkedIn messaging, which is direct, we're trying to build a brand, and we're trying to build, because events are so alive, like I said. It's a great thing, it's a great story to tell, and comes with that great visuals. So video is key. Video, and that's where you get the storytelling. And we've worked with Illumino for 3 years now, I think, and certainly some of the videographers for longer than that, 5 or 6 years. And they've been huge because obviously we cover the event during the 3 days and we put out a lot of reels and content during that, and that's brilliant. But obviously we have a whole year to promote the following year's events, and that requires a lot of content, a lot of testimonials, a lot of case studies, a lot of reviews, a lot of reels, a lot of social creative, a lot of work with partners. So there's a lot of ways to market an event. So the tools, I think, there's no end, I suppose, but for me, it's be organised. We have a really good CRM. That's key for us. We need to know who we're speaking to, and that's clean. So when we go out with communications, it's accurate. We have a project management system, so everything's in line, it's running on time. But then also, what I was referencing is having the creative, videos and that kind of thing. It's key to actually getting that message out there. That's the fun bit for me, the creative.
And so social media has kind of come up over the years, and it's getting stronger and stronger as we go. How has social media helped you market better?
I think, it's funny because we all know there's so much noise on social. There's so much noise, and I feel kind of lucky that I'm in B2B, because B2C, the amount of stuff being sold these days, trying to get your head above the parapet must be, you spend a lot of money, because LinkedIn and Instagram make you spend a lot of money to get your advert seen. Or you've got something viral, which is, you have no control over that really. Or you can go off trends as well, like if the Super Bowl's going on, you can react to certain things, but that's very ad hoc. I think it's, I've lost my train of thought completely.
No, but how
Sorry.
That's fine. So how are you leveraging social media to reach the audience for your events?
So going back to that, to sort of, there's a lot of noise, like I was saying, and you can have a lot of budget. I think the key is giving content to the audience and what they want, and that's, forget any marketing for this company that I work for. The general thing is you need to know your audience, and you need to know what they're interested in and what's going to, push them over the edge to purchasing your product or attending your event. And, I do a lot of work with my team to, personas, understanding, because it can get really niche, especially B2B. It's not, again, someone just buying a £15 bag or a lunch or something. This is a big ticket item we work in. There's dozens, I don't know, like 15, 20, 30,000 pounds, easily. And so to get someone to commit to that, you do need to really explain to them why there's value in attending, rather than, come to the event, have a great time. It's really no, you're going to get something from this, really will benefit your career, benefit your business. So social is a brilliant way of of basically pushing those messages out, I suppose.
And do you think social is slowly starting to replace traditional marketing like emails? Or they kind of work hand in hand?
If you see every like marketing like year ahead list, like, you know, like in review or looking ahead to every year, that, you know, I think marketers want to be done with email, but there's no better way than reaching someone directly. Okay, so social is obviously people scroll and might have it, but if you have someone's email address, you know, I know it might sound a bit, you know, for some people don't like that because it's an invasion of privacy at times, but if they've given it and they've accepted, you know, they've clicked the cookies or they've accepted the newsletter, they want to hear from you. And I think I spoke to you before, Corvia, about my feeling of marketing is very much in like Seth Godin's ballpark, which is permission marketing. So, you know, when you like interruption marketing is how it usually was 50s, 60s, 70s. You're watching TV, an advert comes up, you didn't want it, but it's there, it's coming at you. You might not be in a place to hear about, I don't know, health insurance or, I don't know, like an advert about cars or whatever. But permission marketing is actually going out, trying to build a tribe, trying to build people to believe your product, rather than constantly just going, hey, can I, like, you know, like you're in the street, and I hate to, there's nothing wrong with these people, but when you're walking on the street and you have people that work for charities and they stop you, I mean, they feel for those guys, because that's so hard to, who knows what mood that person's in outside a station. They're rushing for a train, they might have they're late for a dinner appointment, whatever it is. And that's never going to get them at the right time. Whereas if you can get the permission, essentially, which obviously GDPR has helped that, but if you can get the permission, they're far better state to listen to your message. And, you know, so email marketing still plays such a big part, really, because that's when, you know, they've said, yeah, I want to be contacted by you, not every day, but they're happy to have those messages. And when they come in, they're happy to hear from you and interested typically. But social is a massive channel now, and we can't, you know, we'd never ignore that, obviously. But yeah, I don't think email marketing is going anywhere.
Yeah.
In truth.
And marketing isn't just about reaching out and spreading a message, but it's also about bringing in new clients. Do you feel like the marketing space is slowly starting to evolve?
I think marketing and sales and marketing has always been, you know, kind of together. But I think more and more now, certainly within my teams and our sales team, we're really close now. We're starting to, I think, certainly in the new gen, if you know what I mean, we're trying to be really aligned, because you actually do a lot of similar things. And, you know, some people think marketing just do nice little pictures and put up videos, and no, we're in the detail, we're in the business plans, we're working on what markets are we going after, where are we trying to grow next year, what kind of products actually will, you know, improve our product line, do we diversify, which, you know, there's so many things we have to be aware of before we give events to Loic to put together, you know. Otherwise, Loic might put an event on that has, and obviously it has as well, that market doesn't even want, and you're trying to sell it into it. So I think, no, I don't know, I think, I don't know, sales and marketing, it's closer for me. They're really, really close together now.
If I can add something onto what you said,
please do.
So social is extremely important for us as well, to turn our existing customer into ambassadors, you know, of our products. Especially in our industry, it's a very small industry. I mean, it's big business, big money business, but very small industry where everybody know each other. So if you know that John has been attending this event and, you know, he has a similar role as you're like, oh, well, maybe this event's for me as well. And when you create content that your captive audience on site can reshare, because everybody loves to share a video where they can see themselves at frame full second. I'm there.
Everyone's got an ego.
It to your mom, your grandmother, I'm here, like, just like the post, reshare. And so, you know, that people are buying off people. So they're like, oh yeah,
of course,
like, this is great. And that content we can use as well for the people who are not here, and hopefully we can create this FOMO and have them to buy for the following year.
And just because I did off a little tangent as usual, but to Loic saying, yeah, obviously we have to harness our tribe, as I say. You want, you know, keeping your clients is key. Obviously, you don't build a business if you keep, you know, shedding clients, but. We obviously use many tactics to reach new business, and that's a key metric of ours every year. But I mean, now actually, because of Eunice, how did your team market your events? Is it? I mean, I imagine it's all sorts, but
yeah, I mean, with marketing strategy, we tend to use local agencies in each city we go to, because obviously what works in one culture doesn't work in another culture. So that whole one size fits approach doesn't really work. So in the UK, for example, I understand the UK marketing landscape really well. But when I go into Europe, I'm like, where do I start? But one thing I have noticed is it's like 50 channels you can use to market any product or
It's
service.
never ending. Yeah.
But also the way budgets are being spent has changed over the last 10 years as well, because when I started out, it was predominantly you probably spend 60% of your marketing budget on traditional channels and 40% on online and digital channels. Now, fast forward to today, and it's totally the opposite. Now you'll spend up to 70 or 80% on online and digital channels, and only about 20 to 30% on traditional channels. I mean, there's a place for both. And, with B2C events, you do need to have both. You can't just think you can just reach everyone you want to reach on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And that seems to be people's go-to. Oh, we need to be doing video and put it on TikTok, and they're all going to come flooding in. And it's not that simple. You do need that balance, and you do need that spread across the channels and making sure, because it's like the term poster blind. If you see the same thing over again in the same place, you go blind to it. You don't acknowledge it anymore. Whereas if you see it across different platforms and different channels, it resonates, and it's just a reminder that this event is happening. And I think that's one of the key things within marketing for events, is making sure we're using the various channels in the right way and hitting those different audiences in the right way with the right messages. And messaging is so important.
I love that point about using local agents or local knowledge.
Yeah,
which I think
very important.
I was going to touch on that. That's such a great point, because we have all these partners. When we start a campaign for a certain event, I don't go, we're going to say this about your destination and we're going to promote this and that. They know better than I do. Loic's team are putting together a 3-4 day program in that area. Again, we use their knowledge, right? We don't.
No, we do. And what I think is quite interesting, like from the cultural perspective, is being a non English speaker, non-native English speaker. I sometimes share some feedback with our marketing team, which is very English focused.
It's always received well.
And sometimes I'm like, guys, I don't understand this email. So if I don't, I think most of our clients or non-native English speakers might not get the joke that you're trying to make.
That's true. That's because our comms used to be quite colloquial and quite humorous, and that a lot of people, certain cultures wouldn't know it, and that's not So Luke's absolutely right. We had to tweak it for each market that we're speaking to.
Absolutely, and that's the key. You've got to tweak your campaigns based on your location and your audience. It's going to be very different. So it's just so many different nuances.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether it's language, whether it's imagery, whether it's the messaging,
generations as well.
generation, age groups. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You have to think of all these various moving parts when you're creating campaigns for different events in different locations.
and I think that if you're a company like Amazon or whatever, the absolute juggernaut, you have the teams to be so granular.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
You're targeting people by the minute when they're most going to be most attentive or what have you. I run a small team. Like, it's not like anything like that. And coming back to your point, Corey, I think that's when things like content, like video, and that really helps you step up, especially in our our niche. Like, our videos are just different level. I'm not even that. It's not me doing it. It's,
Thank you.
The teams are amazing. And no, but genuinely, like, it has. I mean, everyone comes to events. They reshare them, like Loic said.
Yes.
It's that people buy from people. We get our great content out there. Our most loyal clients are just sharing that to their massive LinkedIn networks. It's great organic marketing for us.
I mean, video is a great way to immortalize an event. How do you remember what you did a week ago?
I don't remember anything from this morning. To be honest. It's
Very true. Sometimes it's like, what did I eat last night?
yeah. And also, how many when you do lots of events, like, you're like, when was that? What year was that? It's
and
it's easy to
social
forget.
media is all about videos.
Yeah.
Capturing those and sharing them. So
Well, yeah, I mean, everything now is video, isn't it? TikTok,
yeah,
Instagram used to be photos, and we were when it first came
Absolutely.
along.
It was all about photos, but then everything. I mean, TikTok changed everything.
Yeah.
It became the whole world is all about short form video, and anything from like as short as 5 seconds right up to 2 minutes. Most people don't tend to watch longer than 2 minutes, and that's the society we live in today.
It's really hard because I shouldn't say this, but I really don't like TikTok, and I really don't enjoy the time drain. I mean, you're on it. You're on it.
And I'm on it, and
Yeah.
it's quite bad because when you open it, you just end up in what I call the TikTok loop, and then you think you've just maybe watched 5 TikTok, and you put your phone down, and 2 hours have gone. You're like, what? Has
So,
that
like
just
doom
happened?
scrolling, they're saying.
Yes,
right?
it's
you
just
literally like zoom,
it's
zoom,
the
zoom. We all know that
endless,
feeling. Like.
endless scroll.
It's great for marketers because everyone's attentive and looking at it, and I just think, I mean, there's an advert recently from Volvo that came out, and you spoke about 2 minutes. Now it's about a 4-minute video, and I think the Interstellar like cinematographer was involved, and it's a car video. Did I send this to you? Maybe, but it's about the new Volvo something, and it's like a 4-minute film, and I watched the whole thing. Like when it comes up on YouTube, and you're like, oh, actually, I'm glued here. Amazing, and that for me was really nice to see something that actually had meaning and not just this throwaway sort of video with and I don't think we're ever going to go back to that kind of thing. You need budget.
I think that's also a generational thing as well, because those of us who are slightly older will remember adverts being full advert.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true.
And we're still happy to watch a 3 or 4 minute long advert. It's not an issue for us.
Yes.
But the current generation, for them, if it's longer than say 30 seconds, they switch off.
But
But you've got to actually tweak your marketing to fit that generation.
To be honest, I don't know if it's about the length in itself, because I feel like we went through a period where everything had to be extremely short. I don't know if you remember, was it Vine? When it was
Yeah.
only
Oh,
5
yeah.
seconds.
5 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Short. And then TikTok, there was a limitation. And then more and more, we've seen TikTok
Yes.
increasing up
Even
to
Instagram
10
Reels
minutes.
were like 30 seconds and they
Exactly.
extended. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if it's really the length of itself, or
The content.
if the first 3 seconds needs to be to hook the
hook
audience
them in,
straight
yeah.
away. Otherwise, you just scroll.
Well, they did that thing.
But sometimes I do watch the whole 10-minute thing because I'm just
That's
I want
why
to know what's
they,
happening.
They front load videos with the bit you want to see, don't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The little trick everyone, which is, I'm a sucker for it. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
But if it's a
They're
Federer
great.
shot and I want to see I just get drawn into tennis videos all day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
With that.
Yes.
Global events producer.
Hmm.
How do you put on? What is the key to putting on a successful event?
Okay, so for me, the process I go through is, let's say a client comes to me and says, all right, we want to produce an event about X. Usually they have an idea of what their subject matter is. First thing I'll do is I'll research that subject matter and the content, that possible content around it. Quite often you'll find that they haven't done their research and therefore they don't know that someone else has actually already done it. In which case I'll say to them, look, do you know that so-and-so companies just released this event in this location? And I'm like, okay. So that's the first thing to do, because nobody wants to be a copycat. Where everyone wants to try and be unique and be innovative and be the first. One of the key things I sort of pride myself is trying to be different to everyone else. So that's the first process I go through. Make sure, has this been done before? No. Okay, great. Now we can look at it. And then it's looking at the content. What type of content can we create for this event? Should it be full of physical content, digital content? Should it be written form displays? Should it be screens that we're looking at? Should it be gamification? Are we changing the content into gamification? What's the internal environment looking like? Is it going to be digital and immersive, or are we going to go with printed walls, for example? So many things that you have to consider. But for me, it's about what's the right platform for each element of the show. And what a lot of event producers do, their go-to is technology. But I can tell you that from my experience since 2008, when we do feedback surveys, we have this thing called a video booth. So as you leave the show, we have these video booths. The visitors will go inside that booth and record a short clip about their experience. And every single time, the most popular part of my shows are the live performance elements, as in people interacting or watching people. So for me, it's so important to have a balance between the digital and the physical. I mean, there's lots of events out there that are amazing that are just digital, and that's fine because it might be an immersive art experience, and that's the purpose of the show, and that's fine.
Yep.
But with me, I always try to find a balance. For me, just having all digital doesn't really work for the types of events I do, because I want people to sort of satisfy all their senses, I think is the best way I can describe it. So they touch, they play, they feel, they see,
fully
they
immersed.
hear. Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
And that can't be done with digital alone. I'm sorry, but anyone who thinks that can be done just by watching screens, it doesn't work. And a good example is Dubai Expo. I don't know if you guys visited Expo Dubai.
I did in 21, I think.
Yeah, it's 21. Yeah,
That's incredible.
because of COVID.
Yeah.
Incredible. But how many pavilions did you go in and everything was just screens? Just screens.
A lot.
There was a lot. The one I loved was the
And-
Switzerland one, which was like
Yes.
nature.
Exactly.
You went through, and it was
Yeah.
that stage with me now.
The Scandinavian country ones were actually quite unique. They had the blended the visitor experience between digital and the physical world.
Yeah.
But a lot of them just thought, let's throw 100 screens up, try to have the biggest screen,
Yeah.
the biggest film, and let's see how that goes. And people were in and out. I noticed people were in and out of those pavilions very quickly. Because how long can you stand and watch a screen, especially with today's sort of attention span
Yeah.
with watching screens. So I learned a harsh lesson there. I thought, okay, fine. And for me now, it's all about balance.
But it comes back to that point we said right at the beginning, isn't it, about people wanting other people face to face.
So it's missing.
Feeling, right.
It's missing from a lot of events. Is people interacting with people. It's missing because people have gone so far down the digital route. They don't know how to find their way back. And I think that's
And it's almost like, to me, it feels like people are trying to push technology on some events where it's not needed. And technology becomes a little bit gimmicky, if you see what I mean. And I've attended so many events where they're like, oh, we've got this app to do this, or this thing where you need to tag us and all this. And most of the time, it just doesn't work. Or the onboarding process is just so long. I'm like, who designed this thing?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
I have a lot of respect for the engineers. But these people need to be kept in check by people who actually experience the thing.
Well, I'm going to say a lot of people, young people, like my nephew or like niece, well, actually not my niece, my nephew, that they're at home on their computers all day. Then, I mean, I think COVID obviously again, another escalated that, I think. So when that workforce comes in, like to our events and your event, it's like, that's another new generation of people that maybe haven't really had much exposure to other people.
Exactly, and
You
that's
know.
good. And that's. But you can see that already over the last few years, how many events are relying just on technology only. There's nothing else in there to see. The only human interaction you'll get is probably in the gift shop at the end, and that's all about retail. That's not about the experience really. That's about taking home a souvenir of your experience. And I think it has gone that far that way. So I'm wondering whether in the future it's going to, the more
Like
experienced producers will say, you know what, we want to pull it back a little bit into the middle ground and say we want a bit more of a balance between the digital and the physical. And I think it will go that way eventually.
I mean, technology is changing the way.
We haven't even said AI yet, have we?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Technology. I mean, it's
Yeah.
AI technology. It's changing the way the world is running.
I heard a quote recently that they think AI is going to be as impactful as when we first found fire as a race,
Absolutely.
or as a human race. So that's going to be quite impactful then, if that, because I think it will eventually replace most things we're doing today in our
Yeah, I
jobs.
think it will.
It's quite interesting because you're right. It's going to be extremely a pivotal moment for us as a society. But what I'm a little bit not scared, but I'm waiting to see where that is going to go. Is now whenever you send an email or you receive an email, your first reaction is, has it been written by ChatGPT? You're a bit suspicious.
You are always suspicious
You are,
because
yeah.
it seems to be the go-to for people now to try to write some witty copy or some marketing spiel or advertising slogan, or even as far as a title for your event. And I'm like, are we becoming so unimaginative and uncreative that we can't come up with something ourselves? We need ChatGPT to help us. Really, we never needed it before. So why do we need it now?
I think it comes from an objective now where we always need to be more efficient, more productive, more all of this. And even now companies are investing massively into AI and say, use these tools. It's going to make you more productive. And I'm just like, okay.
I think it takes away some of the sort of the slower jobs, the sort of the heavyweight, like spreadsheets where you need just like things you can put this together. It does save time, and I think the selling point of AI at the moment is that it allows you more focus on being creative with the producing or the
Yes.
management.
Yes, no, that's true.
But I think companies are normal. They're going to want to, if technology is cheaper, they're going to push that. That's just a capitalist structure.
Yeah, I think using AI to get a summary of the meetings. It's quite good because let's be honest, nobody likes to just compile notes after a meeting.
That's a real good. That's already
a good,
working. Great,
really good feature. But when now it would be interesting to get some stats on it. Maybe you have some stats on that, Colbert.
Colbert, you might.
How many emails now are being sent and the content is generated by AI? Yeah. Like even if you take a platform like LinkedIn, I think I was reading a studies the other day where over 50% of the content on LinkedIn now is generated by AI.
Wow. Okay.
And that's quite like, okay, but now is it a machine talking to another machine? Even in the way we write our emails, and I think we're still good at receiving that email and say, this is not really a human behind this. There is a human, but it doesn't sound human when I read your email.
It kind of depends on how you use the AI. The AI is there to be almost a companion, is how I see it.
Yeah.
It's not there to take over the world or someone's job.
Yeah, it's like money. Money isn't a bad thing. It depends
what you do with it. It can take me, a solid half an hour to an hour to write a really good email. Reading it, rereading it, rewriting it. But with using AI, it kind of builds that template for you to then work off. So there's still a human element to it.
It is useful. I think. We speak like event names and getting creative ideas going. I still think it needs that human vetting.
Absolutely.
That sort of you can, and we see it with the Screenwriters Guild in America. All the things like people starting to write scripts. Give me a script for, I think someone did recently Breaking Bad. It took all the scripts and said, write me a new episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And I saw Ben Affleck saying that that's going to come fairly soon. He thinks that we want certain shows and Friends ended. People want another episode of Friends. We're going to make an AI episode and it just does it for you. Then that's what will happen in the next decade.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it will sell.
But don't you feel that
but it's not creative in my mind.
It's inevitable though. I think it's going to happen whether we like it or not. It'll put people out of jobs, but we can't stop it. The evolution of AI is moving at a speed that we can't keep up with. The good thing I like about AI is it's great for the planning side of events. During the planning stages, it's brilliant because it does create shortcuts and save you time and money. But when it comes to the creative side and the delivery side, I think that's when it needs humans. And
Well, and it's pulling on everything. Everything it's pulling on is human made, right? Everything in Google, everything that's pulling on is from the human brain. So
that's true. And with the use of AI, what I think is key as well is for people to know how to use it, as you mentioned it. And if I had an advice for maybe the younger generation who, are having this tool very early on where they're not, they haven't had the time or the experience of writing an essay for university on their own and doing the research and putting the words together, is AI is actually doing a very poor job at creating something when you're just not giving it much information. But what I found in my everyday job is whenever I've already written most of the emails or most of my idea of my project and I give it to the AI, it's really good at tells me whether it's going to be good or not. And giving me feedback. Getting feedback via AI is actually quite valuable, I found. But asking AI to create something almost from scratch with a very, very short prompt is just not good yet.
No.
Maybe it will get better, but at the moment,
the more
it's not.
people use AI, obviously, everything we type into for example, ChatGPT, it goes into a massive library and it just keeps churning and spitting out more and more advanced things. So over the years, it will become better. Of course, it will, but
and we can't ignore. I have to be it's going to. Salesforce are using AI already. It takes away the sort of the heavy load of sifting through data and all that. That's going to be brilliant, because that's a lot of work and that kind of thing, and that will save everyone time.
All the admin side of the job, which is very time consuming.
Exactly. And I mean, we're already seeing like AI has been used in certain email sends, algorithms, obviously using it already. It's learning things. So it's, we're not at that stage, and I'm not against it as a marketer. If it's going to help us target people better and make a better experience for them, give them more value rather than us selling things that don't appeal to them. That's good. But I don't know. Look, I mean, we're all of a certain age. I mean, I'm 34. Loic, you're what, 21?
You're too kind, Greg.
but I mean, that we know of an analog-ish time, and I can't. I mean, maybe I just can't imagine it yet. I can't imagine everything going through AI and being, without human input.
So with technology changing, and the audience behaviour changing as time goes on, what tools or innovation has been useful or exciting in your fields?
For me, it's gamification. So with my type of events, especially with exhibits where you're trying to deal with dry subjects. For example, I'll give you a really good example. A few years ago, I was working on an exhibition all about maths. Now, how dry is math as a subject for an exhibition? And it's aimed at school audiences and the education sector. And we thought, how can we make this exciting, maths? Oh my God. And then we thought, hold on, we use maths in everyday life without even knowing we're doing it. So that's the angle we took. So we created all sorts of exhibits, one of them being a snowboarding exhibit. So the kids will actually snowboard and have a big screen in front of them, so it looks like an immersive environment, but they have to work out angles for their jumps and their turns to complete the course. So immediately, without them even realizing, they're learning about maths. And that's a really good example of gamification. It's helped us to explain subjects in a fun and entertaining way for kids who normally wouldn't engage in dry subjects like maths, and probably wouldn't enjoy it so much. So for me, that's a really, a really good example of how technology, like gamification, is changing the way we teach, the way we educate, and the way the new generation is learning. So I think that's an important aspect, and gamification is really advanced now to the point where you can have multiple players on an exhibit. You can have leaderboards. You can compete with your family and friends at an exhibit in a museum, for example. So for me, that's the positive side of technology, how it can create content and a way of displaying and interacting with that content in a fun and engaging way, whereas many years ago that wasn't possible.
Yeah. Just a maths textbook.
Yeah.
Just to look at. Yeah.
We all used to dread those, didn't we?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Loic, operations. Your role is to take an event and see it through to the end. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people involved in that. How do you manage people, ideas, creativity, and then almost spill that out into a finished event?
Well, I would say that we're fortunate enough that let's say we have a bit of a template for our events that works, a format that we've been trying as a company for over 15 years, and we found out that was the best format that worked for the audience that we're catering for. Obviously, for an event in particular, we work with a lot of destinations which are trying to promote themselves as a destination for the professional of the so-called MICE industry, or the luxury leisure sector. So we need to make sure that the event is aligning with their goals. We have also additional stakeholders, our internal stakeholders as well. We have our creative team, which are really good at putting concepts together, but we need to make sure that these concepts and ideas can actually happen in the real world when we try to put them in practice. But also, it's always making sure that balancing the interest of everyone, all the stakeholders, the destination that we're working with, in kind of like putting this together, which can seem simple, but it requires sometimes a bit of diplomacy, finessing, and just being a bit of a it's like you're leading an orchestra. Everybody needs to make sure that it's singing from the same tune. If that makes sense.
And how do you manage it? How do you get people to work to a shared vision?
So that's actually a complicated one, especially if you don't have a clear vision from the start. So I would say avoid the silos at all cost. Even though you're working with vendors or external suppliers, they need to understand how their part is interacting with the main event. Let's say, for instance, that you are organizing an event for, I don't know, a car launch, for instance, and you are getting a vendor or a service provider providing you entertainment. They need to understand that they're not the main act. It's all about the product that's being launched. It's not about them. We need to remember the product, not the big entertainment piece that happened. So, and I think it's all about how you brief your partners, that you understand, you're here to enhancing this. This is what the expectation. If you were to be, if the event was to be successful, this is what people should remember.
Of course.
And not, because I've seen it happening so many times on some event where you ask someone to, I don't know, let's say build a screen, but they don't really know what the event is for, and they just build a screen the wrong way. And I'm like, but what did you put it here? That's not what was the plan. I thought would be better. But people are supposed to go this way. So, and you know what? Actually, thinking of it, I was like, well, they didn't really follow the brief, but they did not really know what was the event or how it was going to work. So yeah, if I had taken the time to tell them, well, just to explain to you, this is where the people are going to go. That's why it's important that it's here and all this. Kind of, again, coming back to my guiding principle of managing expectation and communicate effectively with my vendors, that would have probably not happened, and they would have understood the reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about sharing information with all internal, external staff, partners, suppliers, etc. And that, quite often, like you said, on site, that falls apart when the person who's in charge of the project doesn't follow through with. Some people may need training, and others will be experienced and won't need so much training, but they just need to know what's going on. So it's finding the balance between the more junior sort of suppliers and staff and the more seniors, in terms of how much do I need to tell them about this event to make sure it runs smoothly, seamlessly, and everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. We're pushing the same USPs and key messages, etc. So you're right. It's very important.
So how would you define a successful event?
I think mine would be very different to you guys because, for me, it's all about ticket sales. Public ticket sales. And for example, when we did the Magical Lantern Festival, we were the first people in the UK to bring that show to the UK, and we hired out Chiswick House and Gardens in West London. I'm sure you guys have probably heard of it. And we took over the entire outdoor space, and we sort of themed and dressed the whole space. We had 20 Chinese artisans coming over from the Far East to help us install it. There's a 1-month installation period. That's quite unheard of in events. But the whole point was to make sure because it was the first time we were doing it in the UK, it had to be wow factor. And that wow factor is what people buy tickets for. People, if it's a repeat event, it's slightly different. People know what to expect. But your first event has to have that real true wow factor. So when people come through that entrance gate, it has got to be a really nice entrance feature that people walk through. They feel like they've entered an environment. And then that's how ticket sales will increase, because the visitors themselves will create UGC, which we all know is user-generated content. Money can't buy that type of content.
Yeah.
So make it exactly.
Yeah.
So when they're sharing their photos and videos across all their platforms, that's free marketing, trusted marketing that they're doing for us.
Which comes out again actually as to the work that Illumino have done for us. Those videos, it's getting shared. It's getting shared because it's obviously first it's quality video, but you're saying they want to share their experience, and then we look great, and naturally people.
As a event company, we can piggyback off their content
exactly all
the time, and there's a lot of people out there that are very good at creating decent photography and videography,
Yeah.
that you can just jump right off the back of them, and you've got you've got all this free marketing. So that's how we would do it. And for that Lantern Festival in year one, we were open for 6 weeks, through mid-November through to early January, and we achieved 120,000 ticketed visitors. That was really rare for trying to get families to come out in the winter, in the harsh British winter, and walk around for over an hour and experience a festival, a light festival like that. It's really difficult, but we did it. But we did it because we put so much time and effort into the planning and theming of the space, making sure that this first event of its kind in the UK was as wow factor as possible. And I think that's the key thing. When you do something for the first time, it has to be the best. And if you're the best, then people will share and people will come.
I mean, I think a successful event for us is different because it's not the consumer as such. But I mean, they are our clients. So, but really it's ROI for them. If our suppliers, and basically our events are suppliers like hotel vendors and suppliers and tourism boards, meeting with event planners, and we want the event planners to come away with great experiences of the destination and then to have some amazing meetings, and the suppliers, we want them to have amazing meetings and have obviously hopefully turned into business down the road where they book events in their property or destination. And then also we want the partners to have had ROI. I think that's kind of how I see it. Obviously that's the commercial aspect of it. Which is obviously key, because if people get money for the money they have invested, then they will most likely return. But we've seen lately, especially as we are operating in a more competitive environment and market, that client satisfaction of their own experience at the event is still having an impact on the likelihood of returning to our events in the future. And that can be something as silly as, was the food of a good quality, was the staff attentive to them, were we helpful on site, all these elements which are really the showing that you're going the extra mile for them, because you separate you from your competitors, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Because if you take us and our competitors, we're basically offering the same service. And how do you differentiate yourself from them? Well, most of the time it's your people. It's how you engage with them and what you do for them.
I think we I mean, again, more like business speak, but obviously you can do different verticals, so you target different niches that serve their own growth sort of challenges. But Loic's right. I think in our time at this company, and I'm sure as well, like you said about the technology change from the simple maths things to the snowboarding you were mentioning, I think our events have gone through the roof in quality, in through the entertainment, through the food, through everything. They weren't poor by any means, but I think the last 6-7 years we've seen such an amazing improvement, I think, in what we're delivering.
And the expectations are very high.
And that is
very,
obviously,
very high.
You have to match that.
And the other important aspect here is also, just as much as your visitors or attendees can make your event, they can also break your event. And I think that's sometimes people forget the flip side is, if your event is not that good, they will destroy you. And what we say now, big expensive, with pretty good reason. If the event hasn't served their needs, we can't guarantee anything. Like we cannot guarantee, like I said, ROI, because that's on numerous variables. But you're absolutely right. If that isn't, if they really have a bad feeling about something, we obviously, I think we're good at managing those situations, because they're rare, thankfully, but it can happen. It can, and that's human nature, though, isn't it? Human nature is always to shout about your disappointments and not scream so much about your happy moments.
Yeah.
It's just human nature. We have this tendency.
It's 5 and 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
If someone says 5 good things about you,
correct,
but someone says one bad thing, you'll always remember the bad thing more.
That's why. And events are no different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People will scream about the bad things in an event, but very rarely will they go online and say, "Oh, that was amazing. I did this and I did that." I don't know why that is.
No.
Because when I enjoy an event, I actually talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But the human nature is to look at the negative first before the positive.
So post events, it's quite important to keep that momentum going once an event is finished. you're getting ready for the next event. How do you keep that momentum going? How do you keep people engaged and locked for future events?
Again, like we spoke earlier about the event, we cover the event. We have a pre-campaign, or promotion period, and we have the actual event, and obviously we get a lot of great content, video, photos, testimonials, and case studies. But I think, as you said, Corvo, we do about 17, 18 events a year, so very quickly on to the next. There's not really any window, like you can't really look back too often, but of course you do need to celebrate that. And probably same as you know, if that light festival that went well for you, you're going to use all those great content and to promote next year, right? It doesn't end. That's just a great resource of information. So my answer is really like using everything from that event that you just had, and then you push it out into promotional channels. Again, it just keeps going. It's like an overlapping, like a chain, obviously, because as your events get better, you need to keep promoting them. And again, we spoke at video's amazing channel of that because it's alive, rather than just a picture.
So you've all been in this field for a while. What's the one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you going back all those years when you first kind of stepped into this field of work? What's the one thing you'd tell yourself?
Ooh, it's a good one. Nothing. I think I got it all right, actually. I think it's all.
Of course, Greg. Of course.
I guess one thing I remember is like when I started managing my team, I did that probably what everyone does. A young manager is, right, I've got to be serious now. Serious, Greg. Going to try and be more formal. I mean, I'm not informal, but like more like.
Have you ever achieved that?
Well, this is
never witnessed this guy. Sorry.
I think it lasted till about lunch on January 3rd, whatever it was. But I remember thinking I'm going to really try and go into this and like just be a bit more serious. And I remember thinking that will help. But no, my style of management and my nature as a person isn't to be. I mean, Corvo, you know me. Yeah. Isn't my nature. So I think. Lean into who you are and lean into the strengths, and you obviously change as you get older. You do become you always chiseling yourself and getting more formed and sharper at what you do. But I mean that was just one anecdote I remember, just really telling myself be more, I guess, like professional, what you imagine a manager to be. But actually the best work I've done with my team is when we've all just been ourselves, and you're in a room being creative, and that's when I think you have to remind yourself all the time. We said earlier about perspective. Yeah. Don't get caught into that. We do events. The worst thing that happens is we don't sell enough tickets. Okay, that can impact things. I know that, but it's not gonna. The world's not gonna end. So I think it's just having that perspective, and if you keep that, you're gonna do better work. You're not gonna be pressured. And there are many days when I come in and I'm like overrun with emails and. Loic's chasing me for God knows what, and I have to, and then I'm thinking, right, I've got to respond. But no, generally, I think if you step back and you have good collaborators, it's fine. So perspective and be yourself, I suppose.
Amazing. And Loic, what would you tell the young Loic if you could?
A blonde bombshell.
What piece of advice would you give the young Loic?
Well, with my experience, I've developed a few mantra, which I kept repeating in situations where I was encountering some challenges, which were, nobody's going to die. It's true, nobody's going to die. We'd only, we are putting events on. It's not an open heart surgery, so chill. Then we'll always make it work because we always do. Obviously, budgets aren't unlimited, but there's nothing that money cannot solve, especially when the success of the event is at stake at the end. And I don't want to sound too corporate or cold, but I think it's important to understand that business is business at the end. From the perspective of it's really good to be a passionate planner and, professionals, but be careful because you can burn yourself out if you don't take perspective and, stop being so on it all the time, with your head down.
Well, events are all encompassing.
Exactly.
You're really, you're working with teams all around the world. So you're basically a 24-hour window if they could be contacting you, like you said, with China or America.
Yeah, of course.
So you can be really absorbed and you have to be very strict. And I try to be better at just going, I'm off today.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not always easy.
I mean, especially at the beginning of your career when you're really trying to make an impact and you want to get there, you're kind of like pushing yourself. And I'm not saying to not do it, but it needs to be measured and you need to have a goal and you need to make sure that this is being recognized. If you have been doing this for a very long time and you're not being recognized, you need to move on because you are going to burn yourself out. That would be my advice.
Yes. What would you tell your younger self?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a really good question, and it really gets you thinking about your career and how it started to where you are today. And I think for me, it's about something I said earlier about being a copycat. When I first started out, I used to always look at others and think, oh, they're doing it this way. Maybe that's the right way. Because when you're a junior, obviously you know,
Yeah, it's your reference point.
it's your reference point, and you're looking for inspiration, and you look at others. And I think any mistakes I've made over the years is because I've relied on others, because it's that whole one size fits all approach doesn't work. So I've looked at others and their systems and their processes, their creative process, and tried to follow them. When really what I should have been doing was carving out my own creative process, my own way of thinking, my own thinking outside the box, and all that kind of thing. And I think that's where slowly I became more and more confident in doing. So it's for myself or anyone new coming into the industry, I would say, okay, you can take inspiration from others, but carve out your own niche. Carve out, what are you good at? Is it the production side of things? Is it the creativity? Are you great at content? Are you better at marketing? Think about what you're good at and what you enjoy. Don't look at others all the time and think, oh, I want to be like them. It's not like that. The industry's not like that. And for me, I think that's the most important lesson I learned over the years was be true to yourself. Find inspiration in locations, in other events, other people, not just event producers. Because a good idea can come from anywhere, and that's one thing I've learned. A good idea can come from anywhere, and even can come from the most junior member of your team.
Yeah,
but quite often that person gets ignored.
I think isn't that? I know this is. I keep quoting. I think McDonald's do that. They ask the youngest person in the room.
Oh, do they?
On their feedback on new items a lot, or the newest or the graduate or something.
It's because fresh eyes, fresh ears.
You know,
Come in with no perceived conception about what's going on. Don't really know the culture and the practices there. So it's the ideal person to test a philosophy on.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So there's two sides to everything, and so far we've had the good side to events. What's the dark side to
Dark side.
Event operations, to event marketing, and event production?
For me, you know what, the most difficult part of my job, and the thing that really bothers me, and I always try to get it right, but not 9 times out of 10 I don't. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, is managing people. Managing people is actually more difficult for me than putting the whole event on itself. The logistics, the content, everything put together is simple compared to managing people, because people are living, breathing things. They have their own minds, they have their own thought processes, they'll do things their own way. So for me, managing people is always really difficult, especially when you're touring. So because I tour a lot with my shows, every country I go to, I have to find local event staff. And to find the right staff is really difficult. It's people that really are going to be loyal, understand what you want from them, and actually deliver that vision. For me, that's 100% is about managing people. I mean, there's a real art form to it, and I'd like to say I'm getting better, but I don't know whether they would agree. But I'd like to think I'm getting better because quite often I'll go to local universities and pick out interviews to students, and for the live performance segments of my events, I'll go to local universities and look at their drama departments and hire in a lot of drama students to do the live performance sections. So yeah, that is the most difficult part, I think, is people. Managing people is extremely difficult and is a real skill. If you can get that down to an art form, then I think you can do amazing things.
Is yours rain like? When
Is
it rains,
yours-
weather,
yours rain?
weather.
Yeah. Is that the dark side?
dark clouds. Yeah.
No, I think the dark side of it is obviously it's a very fast-paced industry, and I think it's important to understand that things rarely goes as planned. Actually, they never do.
Live events never do.
And if you're a bit of a control freak like I was at the beginning, this can like destroy you a bit.
Absolutely.
Because you spend months, weeks working on a plan which is simply not going to happen. But it's, it is the nature of event, just because of the people who are attending, the people you're working with. There's so many people involved that even though you are the one project manager, you just cannot deliver this event on your own. You're relying on other people. So I would say you have to trust, but also you have to be able to recognize when it's time to press plan B, and you need to stick with it. You go with plan B and you stick with it. There's no turning back and say, oh, what if? No, you're going in that direction. So I don't know if it really answers your questions of if there a dark side. I guess the dark side is things never really goes as planned. So so you might as well just ask me, why do you spend so many weeks to plan it if you're just going to make it up on site anyway? But
an event isn't just a 9 to 5 job, is it? I mean, when these events are on, you're working from
around the clock.
Well, during the event, yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
19-hour days, 20-hour days, comfortably. You know.
Always on call. You can be called in the middle of the night. That happened to me quite
a lot,
quite a
yeah.
few times.
Me calling you. Where's my room? Yeah.
That's different, Greg. That's
Sorry,
after you had too many drinks at the bar.
I mean, it's funny that dark side's difficult because it feels like, I think we said earlier, it's nothing awful happens really at events.
No.
Standard.
I just said nobody's dying. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to die.
I guess the pace you mentioned is true, the speed of it. And I think, this isn't relevant maybe to us, I'm not trying to say it's an issue, but, pay in events isn't like financial sector or, other, so you are going to do a job probably that's something more of a passion rather than something that's going to, give you a mansion in Knightsbridge. You've got to be interested in people, even if you don't like managing people is it can be tricky, but you've got to have interest in people. You've got to have interest in, I guess, experiences, different cultures, all that stuff, but and not expect to get a massive sort of payout at the end of it, because it's just not that industry. The industry, the reward, I would argue, is the experiences, and I think if you're driven by that, it's not a dark. But if you end up in events and you don't like any of that, and you would look at that as quite dark. I think you'd be like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not really getting much sort of, I guess a lifestyle that I want from it. But for me, it's fast paced and I enjoy that. And I think that sort of suits me anyway at the moment, I suppose. But there's not really a dark. I don't know. I can't think of a dark side.
So basically,
I've just thought of one actually, and it's something that a lot of people talk about in the industry, which is RFPs.
Yeah.
We win a lot of our projects through responding to RFPs.
RFPs, what's RFPs?
Request for proposal. So,
Jinx. yeah.
So that for me, this is a little bit tricky, because quite often a company will put out an RFP. They already know who they're going to work with, but because of internal processes,
and
it's a real nightmare, because you can spend 2 weeks solid
pitching for work, aren't you?
Pitching for that project, creating a beautiful illustrated proposal. All the event content is in there, an idea of what it might look like, what the audience profile might be, what the ticketing strategy is, all that kind of thing. And then you achieve the deadline, and then 9 times out of 10 you don't win it. And then when you find out who's won it, it's the same company that always works with them. And then you wonder why do you waste your time? And I think that's a really dark side to the events industry, is just how can they be more transparent and and be more fair to say, because my proposal might have been amazing compared to theirs,
but it was never
but I'll never win it, because they're so used to working with them and they know what they're getting. They don't want to take a risk on a new person coming in and trying them out. And I think that is definitely a dark side, because time is money. You spent 2 whole weeks on a proposal and pulling in resources like 2D and 3D designers and videographers to create short skits of what the project might look like, and it costs you money.
You should come to one of our events, Naz. You meet loads of suppliers. Get out of RFPs.
You'll be selling already.
So yeah, that's a major issue. And to be honest with you, I also find that's quite regional. I find in the Middle East it happens a lot. In fact, it happens all the time. And on LinkedIn, you'll see people discussing this all the time. Why does it always happen in the Middle East? Why is this real?
Any reason? Any
I think
Interesting, that is, yeah. Why? What's going on in the Middle East? Why is
friends? I've got a good friend in that industry. I'm going to use them. Oh, I've got a great merchandise supplier. I'm always going to use them no matter what other options are out there. I think nepotism plays a big part in this dark side.
I understand.
I think that kind of like plays nicely onto what we do, because we are actually putting on these events which are platform for people to meet. And one of the USP that we push is people will tend to do business with people that they know, or that they had an experience with. They shared a time together, and you're most likely to send your business to John that you had an amazing time together in, let's say, in London. You went for a very nice dinner. You then went on an experience on an afternoon. And, you know, let's say in 6 months later, you can be like, oh, I remember this guy. I know just the right guy. And you know that you're going to send your business over there and it's going to be taken care of. So sadly, it's tying on what you're saying. That
Exactly.
It's all about the relationship.
I mean, there is something to working with people that you know and trust. Obviously, there is that you do have those go-to people like Illumino. You know, like we use you all the time because we trust and know the quality of output is high. But it doesn't mean you can't try new vendors, or or for different, like you said, many different things. 3D, all that sort of stuff. So many different options.
It's the cost of the resource and time and effort you put in, and then you realise at the end of it, why did I bother? Why did I bother?
Really a good point.
It is what it is. I mean,
in it to win it, I suppose, but it's something. It feels unfair.
It is.
I think it's even more a problem where they need to ask those RFPs because the budget is public. It's public money.
Correct.
Or it's a government job. And that's where I think, yes, it's good that you've got a relationship, but you shouldn't be the decision maker if you have, let's say, some sort of a conflict of interest.
But that's the thing. There is always a conflict of interest. And you're right there, because the person who's putting out the RFP has already made that decision anyway.
Yeah.
That person should not be the decision maker on who wins that project. I think that's where it's falling down, and that's where the change needs to happen.
True.
Right, thank you. Let's finish off now. Where do you see? What changes do you see to the events landscape in the next 5 years?
Some notes for this. I have a little look through
So
mine.
I think one of the main topic that has been kind of like pushed on the side, you know, with COVID and with also the rise of AI is sustainability. I think it's more relevant than ever, especially nowadays, where we see some politicians wanted to revoke certain agreement, and, you know, kind of like things are not going in the right direction, if I may say. And I think as an industry, we obviously in our business, we're flying people all over the world. We are feeding all these people on events. So our carbon footprint is quite high. And I think we have a responsibility to be more conscious on the decision that we make. But I have to say, there are very few destinations that are pioneering this. But I worked with a destinations actually in Scandinavia, which was really good at kind of explaining the consequences of the choice they were making throughout the planning. So if I was going with let's say the menu with chicken or with beef, they would tell me, well, this is how much is your carbon footprint. But if I was to go with the chicken, I could see what's the difference and how, for instance, I could, you know, save the carbon emission that I would make on 3 flights or 4 flights. And I think having that data readily available as a planner helps me to make a decision. Whereas when you're just navigating in the dark and you don't have the tools and things are not properly recorded, it makes it difficult. So I think the main actors of the industry, namely, let's say, hotels, catering, venues, all of these will have to develop those systems or get them in-house to be able to monitor and record these, so that the planners, you know, can also report back to their clients, because it's one of the main things that clients are, you know, conscious of as well, because it aligned with their brand identity, with their values, you know, environment, respect, all of these, like, so they are asking for these type of report post event as well.
No, I would wholly agree with you there, actually, because sustainability is almost becoming a topic you can't avoid anymore. You know, over the years, you can get away with it, you know, and not really consider it so much. You can just have a mention of it in your proposal.
A
for
recycling
example.
bin in the corner.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
But now those days are long gone. And I think the best example of that is Dubai Expo. I think they've raised the bar, because what they did is they had everything from cans and bottles to plastics. Everything was either recycled or upcycled. And then then you have the legacy factor. Now, the legacy factor is really important because large-scale events during the installation and dismantling phase has a huge amount of waste, so much waste, especially an event of that size. But what they've done is 80% of the pavilions are now being repurposed into housing, into parks and gardens, into a museum. So they're doing so much, and they changed the name to it. It's going to become, or it might already be, Expo City. And it's a 15-minute smart city. So the whole 15-minute thing means you can get from one side of that city to the other on public transport in 15 minutes. It's really clever, including cycling, walking, and any other mode of transport. So I thought that was really clever.
It's a great example. I mean, I know. Like we down the road, Stratford, right? We have the Olympic Village. I mean, those model. I mean, I think Beijing did an amazing job in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're such a good point about obviously the event happens. We say you do 3 days. What's actually your footprint after? You know, and I mean, the Olympics is the biggest event in the world, so they all talk about legacy, don't they? What's the Olympics legacy?
Yeah,
But it's a good point.
It'll be interesting to see now on future expos. I mean, Expo next year is in Osaka, in Japan. It'll be interesting to see if they follow that trend that Dubai set, where almost everything is either recycled or repurposed. And I think that's the big trend going forward over the next 5 to 10 years.
So I know I said that was last question, but just touching on the topic of Dubai and UAE, why do you feel like there's more and more events happening in UAE? Please.
Who's first?
All right. I would say, obviously, the Asian market is very, very dynamic. And especially in our industry, it was not a mature market for many, many years. Now it's maturing, or becoming more mature at least. And the UAE and Dubai is a gateway between Asia and Europe. So that's where I can see, a dynamic here where a lot of events happen there, because it's really halfway between the two continents. People can meet there.
I mean, that's exactly what I mean. The location is incredible. The connections it has. You said about the 15-minute city. Then the way it can. You basically, when you land, there's so many connections. I think the food in Dubai is amazing. The event teams. I mean, I'll be honest. I think our best events have probably been in the Middle East, I would say. Maybe I shouldn't say, but the ones that have been most seamless. I think we've done amazing events everywhere. But the thing with our events is that you are usually in a property for a few days. And look, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, their properties are brand new. They're great. They're custom built for these sort of events. The thing I think, so I don't know. I don't think the bubble's in a burst at all. We know Saudi are coming. Qatar obviously is growing quickly, and there's a huge market for that. But I do think we spoke again at some point about like the authenticity of things, and there's nothing wrong with those areas, but there's no history and there's no long term. I mean, all right, there is obviously certain areas of Dubai, obviously old downtown, that area is history there, but where you are at an event, you're not going to be in those areas typically. No. Whereas we still do events in Sardinia and like tiny little places all around the world, which people I think crave. And I think certainly in the luxury travel, everyone goes to Dubai. Everyone knows Dubai, so you're not really offering anything different there. I think one of our duties is, and one of the things I look at my job as, is promoting destinations that aren't as well known. And I love that, because that then, we talk about our footprint. If we do a great event in, let's say Sardinia, it's not huge in events, but if we bring in 300 event planners, and then they all start placing business there, and that grows, the economy grows, it builds jobs in that area, it improves schools, roads, everything. So I love that feeling that's kind of what we do. That's how I promote my head in what we do as a job, really, is that we do have a longer term impact rather than just a 3-day networking event. So I think Dubai, it is so well located and it's custom made for events, but, you know, and it will keep growing, as I say, but I don't think it's, you know, people still want the other side, right? A different sort of experience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I found over the last few years, the UK events market's really declined, especially within my industries and what I do. And that's why 50% of my work is in the Middle East, because they're booming now, especially Saudi. It's absolutely booming. You look at all their giga projects. The UK would not even think about some of those projects that they're doing. You know? They don't have the budgets, they don't have the facilities, they don't even have the space. So, I mean, that's probably why, because they're evolving and progressing, and we've stagnated. UK and Europe has stagnated in terms of, you know, unique events for a long time, as far as I'm concerned. I've been in the industry since 2008.
You think, I mean,
Partly it's investment, and partly it's a lack of vision. It's a real lack of vision that you can't just stand still and expect to be. The UK always thinks it's the best in the world at things. Well, in the events industry, I'm sorry, it's nowhere near the best.
No.
If you look at other countries like Saudi Arabia and what they're doing, and you think to yourself, why are we so
like
poor
the moon,
in,
right?
in,
It's
in,
like,
in comparison? We're doing nothing, literally nothing back here. They're doing everything over there. All right, they've got oil money and lots of resources. I get that. But, you know, we could do things on a slightly smaller scale, but still keep, you know, that creativity flowing and keep trying new things. We've stopped trying new things. Whereas in the Middle East, they're willing to put budget behind new ideas. And that's the difference between the UK, Europe and the Middle East. They're willing to go the extra mile, be more creative, try something. And even if it doesn't really work, they're not afraid to try. And that's where we're going wrong. We're afraid to try. We're afraid to put budgets behind new ideas, and that's the gulf between the two.
You can kind of lean back into what Britain is known for, is like the country homes, the traditional hotels, and that is kind of there's a space for that. But yeah, it's not very innovative.
No,
very established.
It's not. And organizing an event in the UK is very expensive.
Exactly.
And you're not quite sure you're going to get, you know, the quality of the services that you're
Middle
expecting.
East, yeah.
Whilst in the Middle East, yes, it's expensive. And again, you know, in Dubai, there's so many hotels, so many bedrooms that there is a competition between hotels, and you can kind of negotiate. But you know you're going to get a good service. And to actually follow up on what you just said, I think in the UK event market, things are quite conservative, if I can say, like, you know, I'm wondering if it's not a little bit like also cultural, like in the Middle East, everybody wants to be the first one to do something, to be at the forefront, and they're not. Yes, they have the means, the financial means to do that, but they're like, well, it's fine, we'll just do it and see if it works.
Exactly.
You know?
It's the appetite to try. And
Exactly.
we don't have that here anymore.
It's the risk,
to try.
the risk,
the risk factor.
taking.
We've just lost all notion of taking risk to make something amazing happen. And I think it's really sad that the UK events industry declined like that, and we've let it go to the Middle East. And now when someone wants to go see a wow factor event, they're more likely to go there than they are to visit here.
Also, the weather.
Weather helps. Weather helps.
I mean, Dubai is
a very long way.
Cheap sun.
It is cheap sun.
It's only how long is it? 6 hours.
6 hours,
6,
7 hours.
Yeah, to Dubai.
So it's
But what
you know,
about,
if you ask me if I want to take the risk,
what about Northern England in a rainy day? You know, get up there. I mean, imagine trying to get
then you need
people
to pay
there.
for a tent to build.
Yeah.
I mean, we Illumino Media, we've now expanded into Dubai as well, and we found things moved quick. We found it easy to network, and set up. There's definitely that.
They want you, don't they? They want entrepreneurial.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
Well, they do. They encourage it. They encourage entrepreneurs to come and operate, and it seems like it's the place to be right now with putting on events, filming events, or anything to do with events. And they really are taking over, making a huge impact in that space right now. Weather. You know, luxury, service. They offer it all.
Service is amazing.
Absolutely, you know.
I mean, I can give a really good example as well. We all know Global Village in Dubai, right?
Yes.
So I tried to bring that concept here to the UK because I thought, look, we are one of the most multicultural cities in the world.
Yeah.
This would work an absolute treat here in London. It would sell out overnight, especially during the summer months. And I pitched the concept to so many UK councils, and nobody had the vision for it. It's like trying to sell them something that they couldn't see how it would work.
Why do you think that is? Is it the lack of appetite to take on the risk, or is it?
I think it's a combination. Budget, because it's a big budget project.
Yeah.
And secondly,
Would be great.
vision. It really is, because you have to have a vision to see something as big as this. And something I see can work, will work, is a proven concept. Why is it so hard for me to demonstrate that to someone else? That means they are really lacking creativity, really lacking in vision to see the bigger picture and what's really possible. We've got huge parks that are available that you could rent out for the entire summer, say from June, July, August, right through to September, and put on something like Global Village in the UK, and imagine the tourism we would get as well. So it's not just about the event. You're bringing in thousands upon thousands of local tourists as well as international tourists to come and see an event which at the moment you can only see in Dubai. Why can't? And we could probably do it better, because at the moment Global Village Dubai, if you look at it, I don't want to criticise too much, but it's turned into a market.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been recently.
Yeah,
it's turned into
it
just
is.
a retail market.
Yeah.
Whereas I was pitching it as totally different. So each pavilion would be a cultural concept, and retail would only play a small part of that. Whereas in Global Village, at the moment, it's all about retail, and everything else is secondary. So it would be a real cultural experience for so thousands of people. And also, what's good about that is people who don't experience these foreign cultures, it's great for them. They can come along and say, "Oh, I didn't know the Japanese ate this," or
Yeah.
they had this type of dress sense, or whatever it is. There's, you could do fashion shows for
Yeah,
each country.
yeah.
You could have cuisine from each country. You can have so there's so many different ways you could build those pavilions and the content, but there's no vision.
And as that vision changes, they're only going to get further and further
Behind.
away unless there's and obviously the geopolitical environment
Yeah.
right now in the Middle East is a bit interesting with an underestimate, and obviously we've got Trump back in America, and obviously the Ukraine Russia wars. There's a lot of going on which does impact our events.
It does.
It's obviously, but I think obviously I hope all of that dies down. It'd be great, obviously, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible how the Middle East have just continued.
There's nothing stopping them.
As in nothing stopping them, and
Whereas
that's going to keep going.
We've just stagnated and thought, oh, this is it for us. This is as good as we're going to get. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
well, we used to be world beaters at this. We were the best. And people used to take our ideas and implement them all over the world. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Why not? Because we're not innovating anymore. And it's a major problem for the UK events industry.
Incredible. Thank you, guys. Look, there's so much more we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what we'll leave for future podcasts. What do you guys reckon about kind of speaking about what this podcast does, or what the impact this podcast can have in the events industry? Do you think you want to bring up anything on that?
Yeah, I think podcasts are a very, very interesting format for people to, gather knowledge, experience, and also more. What I was going with that. Let me do this again. Podcasts are a very interesting format for people to get further knowledge in this field, especially because podcasts now are a bit like a series. It's people can have it on their own time. They can listen it during their commute, in their car. And in the event industry, there's only a few podcasts.
Yeah, I'm going to say that.
That and sometimes they are quite specific as well, quite niche, and I don't think they're quite relevant for new people in the industry, or maybe some planners wannabes. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is really my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, I would agree with you, actually. When you look at podcasts out there, it's full of political podcasts. There's so much political podcasts, but there's not many podcasts that deals with the creative industries, like events marketing, live performances, theatre, all that kind of thing. And I think that's what's lacking, and giving valuable insights like we have today, these sort of insights that people, unless they're in the industry, would have no idea about. And could be a great learning curve and a tool for newbies in the industry to come in and to see and watch these sorts of podcasts and think, oh, okay, maybe that is right for me. Or, nah, I can't do a 12-hour day, for example.
Yeah.
It's not the right industry for me. So there's lots of different ways that people can consume the content and then digest that and use it to their advantage. So I think these podcasts are very important.
And that's why we've created this space, is for people within this industry, in this space, to come, to share their stories, to share the knowledge, share their tricks and tips, to help the younger generation, the newbies coming into this, to learn and grow. And we think something like this is not done. So thank you guys once again. And all I ask from anybody watching this is that you like, you subscribe, you share, you help us grow this podcast series. And if you want to be on it next, please get in touch. If you've got any ideas, please be in touch. Thank you.